this topic, cell death, why a cell choose to die, and that is totally related to human psychology and our social behavior as well. So first, let's try to understand this difficult thing in a simpler way. There is a situation when a cell can select and can choose to die by choice, and that state is called as apoptosis. It's called as apoptosis. So it's a situation in which a cell select a way of death. Let me tell you how it happens, how death actually happens. And then I will tell you that what is the circumstances when you can consider that the death is a better choice than life. I mean, as human, sometimes many of out there, the people who suicidal ho jate, they started thinking in this way. Okay, death might be an easier choice. It must be less painful as compared to the life they are living in. I mean, it's a wrong assumption in all circumstances, I believe, but for the people who are like in that much suffering or that much pain because of X, Y, Z reason. But there is a situation when some people just thought that life is more painful as compared to the pain they will going to receive for self-execution. It was like this. So the similar sort of situation happens in the cell. First, if a cell receives a damage, if a cell received, cell is controlled by the genes present in the nucleus. That's what we know. So if something bad happens to those genes, means the sequence of the DNA. If something bad happens to the sequence, that this bad can be happen in many ways. One of the ways that the cell receives a lot of dosage of ultraviolet radiations. A toxic chemical is out there because of the errors during the cell division. Because when the cell division occurs, the cell creates all the DNA once again, and it can place the wrong things, at the wrong places, something like that. So it can create erroneous or a DNA with new mutations, which should not be there. So if something bad happens to the DNA because of any of these reasons, that information will going to change the phenotype of the cell. Because if something bad happens to the genes, these things will going to affect the messenger RNA. The messenger RNA will going to produce the bad proteins, bad genes, bad messenger RNA, bad proteins, ill execution of functions or non-execution of function. So that means there will be an error in the overall function of a cell. That error might be invisible, but that error can be fatal as well. And that error can lead to bigger troubles as well. And let me tell you, if a cell is feeling bad and if the cell is dead, that means the trouble is resolved. A bad cell carrying the bad properties is dead. But what if a cell develop a badness and also learn to live? And also learn to live and survive. So if a cell develops the badness and also the capacity to divide faster and faster, so that badness will going to proliferate. That badness will multiply, and that will end up in large number of unwanted cells in the body. And that's what we call as the tumor, the cancer. So when something bad happens to the cells, especially at the genes level, the cells activated its repair pathway, activated, I must say, the guardian of the genome, activated the guardian of the genome. It activated a policeman called P53. You don't need to remember the name, but it activated a protein. It's a guardian of genome. It actually immediately do two things. Number one, it shut down the cell cycle. It shut down the cell's ability to divide. You can ask why. Because if the cells choose not to divide, that means the problem will not be passed on to the next generation. So whatever the bad thing the cell is carrying, it will stay with the cell. It will not going to pass on to the next generation. The first action, not to go for the cell division, that means that problem, the badness should not be passed on to the next generation. The second thing is that the cell started and activated the DNA repair mechanism. DNA repair mechanism. They try to fix the things. But if they fail to fix the things, the cell will select the third option. First, stop the cell cycle. No cell division, try to fix it, fail to fix it, it triggers the third thing. The third pathway is called as the apoptosis pathway. Do not worry about remembering the terms, okay? In this pathway, what happens? The cell chooses the things present within the cell to kill itself. But there is not someone coming from outside. Why se koi nahi aa raha cell ko maarne ke liye na? But cell is like, it's not able to fix itself. It might transfer the bad things to the next generation. It will going to haunt the rest of the life. अब बाकी cells की जिंदगी तबाह हो जाएगी. Overall human life को ऊपर effect होएगा. So that cell should be dead. So the cell started using the resources and the things present within the cell. अब आप हैरान होंगे. That's the most interesting part of the story. We have mitochondria, all of us in all the cells. That mitochondria is a double membranous structure. I believe you guys should recall, and I will be very happy if you can recall the structure of mitochondria. Double membranous structure, and inside of that structure there is a fluid matrix. Mitochondrial matrix contains DNA, enzymes, and certain other things. In those certain other things, one of the chemical is called as cytochrome C. You can choose to forget it, okay? It's fine. It's perfectly fine. But there is a chemical present in the mitochondrial matrix. So that P53, the guardian of genome, once it fails to fix the problem, it stopped the cell division, tried to fix it, failed to fix it, it activated a system, it activated another protein. That protein changes the permeability of mitochondria. It changes the pore size of the mitochondria. So what will happen? The pore size of mitochondria, when it opens up, the material present in the mitochondria started leaching out into the cytoplasm. So as cytochrome C. So now in the cytoplasm, we have an enzyme called proteases. Very famous of them called caspases. Proteases are the enzymes which are able to chop and to break the protein molecules. You can ask me why there is a need of such a destructor out there in the cytoplasm, and somebody who can destroy the protein, because all the cytoplasm is made of beautiful, wonderful proteins. Cytoskeletons, cell membrane also contains protein, nuclear membrane contains protein, a lot of other things. All the enzymes are proteins. Why we need to keep the bad and worst type of material out there? Those caspases are present over there, but they're inactive. But once the cytochrome C leaches out from the mitochondria, it converts those inactivated caspases into an activated one. And what happens after that? They will started chopping off the proteins present around them. They will destroy the cytoskeleton. They will destroy the enzymes they came across. They will destroy anything, any material, any protein structure around them. I mean, they will irreversibly, and like out of proportion type of damage, they are actually starting conferring to the cells. They are giving the cells like a very weird type of destruction. Like it is like destroying a building, one pillar from there, one pillar from there, one pillar from there, like destroying the building in this way. So एक bulldozer है जिसको आप building में चलाना शुरू कर देते हैं. So whatever comes in front of that bulldozer of that enzyme, it will be chopped off. So the structure, the building structure of the cell is almost collapsed. The cell will be like smaller, shrunken, and then like a blob, it just like collapsed. And that's what we call as apoptosis. So it's not like it's a choice made by the cell, but you can see it's a greater good. Greater good means a life never choose to die. It's a primary function of life. If you ask me, the primary agenda of life is to stay alive. It will never going to choose them. But this is a greater good. Greater good means we have trillions of cells out there which is present in a tertiary version of life. Like we are like having a very advanced version of life, collection of cells. So some of the cells got mad, and apoptosis is a way of killing our own bad cells in order to protect the function, the rest of the function of life. And it's a very difficult decision for the cell. I can tell you it's a very, very difficult decision for the cell, but there is a logic behind that decision, that you are actually saving the life at the end of the day. I'm sorry to tell you this example, but I'm sorry to tell you this example. Please do not quote this example. Just try to understand and grab the concept using this example. This is not a very nice example. A suicide bomber thinks in the same way. If you interrogate or you listen, he will think, hey, you are killing yourself. You are about to kill yourself. He will say, he will going to kill himself for the greater good. That's exactly the same thing. Somehow people are like, humans are trying to use the things. It's a greater good. It's about killing one person and then creating a very wonderful, system of blah blah, jo bhi ideological problems. Similarly, Allah na kare, if you try to study the people, the unfortunate people, who choose to die, suicide karte hain, pressures ki wajah se, XYZ. Why they select the most precious and primary agenda of their life? Why they choose to die? It is because based on their calculations, they started understanding that it is a greater good. It is a greater good. So staying in a less painful condition is also greater good. It's like somebody at a terminal stage of cancer, having a bone cancer, severe pain throughout the body, unbearable pain. Doctor choose to give that person morphine. I mean, morphine जो है वो मिले तो लोग फ्री में हाई होते हैं. It's a very expensive molecule out there. Heroin की तरह का होता है. फिल्मी हीरोइन की बात नहीं करता. हीरोइन ड्रग की उसका केमिकल स्ट्रक्चर बिल्कुल सेम है. थोड़ा सा मॉडिफाई किया है मेडिसिनल यूज करने के लिए ताकि एडिक्टिव ना हो जाए. But still it is addictive. That person, we are giving the person heroin, हम उसको ड्रग दे रहे हैं, but for the greater good, because living in that much pain is bad. Living in less pain at the cost of life is comparatively easier. So these factors are actually driving that concept of self suicide. एक और भी तरीके की self suicide होती है, लेकिन वो लंबी कहानी हो जाएगी. I will tell that thing in a different way. It's quite advanced, but that's very wonderful. There's another way that the cell can choose to die in certain other conditions. Okay, वो apoptosis से बड़ी बात है. But that I will share in the future. Okay.